Welcome everyone. Thanks, Selena. Thank you. Welcome everyone. I just want to introduce myself. I'm Cherie Lucas. I'm the Nexus Fellow from the School of Population Health in the Faculty of Medicine and Health. And I actually use this particular tool in my education portfolio. I didn't develop this tool, but I think it's a fabulous tool to use. And I wanted to show you or have some of my insights on how to use this tool. All right. This acknowledgement of country. I'd like to acknowledge the medical people who are the traditional custodians of this land, and I'd also like to pay my respects to the past and present. So what is a myEducation portfolio? This particular portfolio was derived from a project or grant that was awarded to the CH Academy, and it was led by Professor Gary Phelan. And this particular project started in 2017 and 2018. You can access more information up to that link. So, if you had to tell a story in your portfolio, what would your opening line be? Anyone in the chat? Is there anything there that you might think is an opening line? Do you think about your teaching approach? Or is it about your teaching context? Or would you talk about your teaching philosophy? So there's lots of different things. You can be quite creative with this portfolio. So think about some of the areas that you're most creative. All right, so why maintain, obviously a lot of them have actually got the teaching philosophy. Thank you, so why maintain and the purpose of having a portfolio or an education portfolio like this? I use this for a number of reasons. I came to UNSW about 15 months ago. I've been teaching for 25 years at other universities, and I actually thought it was a valuable tool to use. I started populating that tool and started using that tool, and then I attached the link to the tool to my email as an email signature. So I would attach it with my ORCID, my ResearchGate, my LinkedIn profile, and then I'd have my education portfolio link as well. The reason I personally did this was that I could access that link all the time and I could update it. And as I gathered information or collated and curated information, it was at a very good placeholder place. So when you are thinking about other things like promotions or your fellowship in, say, for example, senior fellow in higher education, everything is there in a nice little placeholder area. So when it comes to promotion, what words come to mind? For me, it's probably yikes.
They can't hear you.
It's only one person. It's only Gabby.
Oh, it's only Gabby, okay.
Everyone okay?
Yes, Gabby was saying she can't hear, but everyone else is saying they can hear us.
Okay.
When it comes to promotion, what are some of the words that come to mind? I'd love to hear in the chat. For me, it's probably yikes. I don't have enough time to actually collate or curate the information, as one of my colleagues in medicine has just mentioned to me. It's probably a little bit of fear of what type of information I want to evidence some of those evidence across the three pillars. Any other things that you might come to mind when it comes to promotion online? Any other words? And I guess we're all time poor. So having the placeholder is actually something to think about. So how confident are you in collecting the information but curating the information across the three pillars? So as an education-focused academic, I'm education-focused, I was a combined track. We all have to go through the three pillars, the education, research, and somewhere in the engagement, leadership, which is often educational leadership. If you are combined track, you still need to address the education or the education leadership. And this portfolio does address those domains. If you do research, perhaps consider some research in education. So if you have a research base in, say, other clinical areas, maybe you can work with some of the education academics in your school. So how confident are you in actually collating that information and curating that information? And if you have this as part of your email link or email signature link, you can, as this information comes across and you have that information, you can actually add it in real time. Okay. So basically, this myEducation portfolio is a set of curated evidence that shows the impact that you have against these pillars. For me, I use this portfolio. I actually populated on week 2, and I used it to have a successful application for a senior fellow in higher education. I do know of other colleagues who have actually used this portfolio and drawn from the portfolio for those types of applications. It also enhances your own reflective practice. Anyone that has gone and undertaken a fellowship in those particular areas, you have to have a reflective practice component. So the way you teach, why you teach, your approach to teaching, the impact of that, whether it worked well or didn't work well, and how you would do something differently. If you can actually navigate that in some of these areas and some of the domains in the portfolio, it's going to be a very easy application when you do end up applying. For those of you who haven't got one of these myEducation portfolio, this is the dashboard, and I just want to navigate the dashboard for you. The About section is about the portfolio itself, the leadership under the Scientia Academy, Gary Velan and his team, and so there's some information about that particular project. The Getting Started actually has a set of training videos, so if you're not going to get anything from this particular session, the training videos will give you a good start. It has a section on collating evidence and the type of evidence you would collate. And the information I'm going to share today is some of the evidence I have collated, but of course, the evidence is broader than that. The indicative standards, this is related to the level at your career. So if you're level A lecturer, level B lecturer, level C senior lecturer, and so forth, what sort of evidence against those standards should you be collating and curating? The Find the People is actually quite good because they're the people who have made themselves known to be on this portfolio. So either who are in the university, of course, but also you can see those who are public in terms of you've got options to make this public as well. And I'll give you some examples of some of my colleagues there. And obviously you've got your frequently asked questions. Okay, so I'm going to start with mine as as one of the examples, but I have a couple of others to show you. Clearly, I need to update my photo because that's very old. But other than that, I did do this on week 2, so just bear that in mind. I actually don't mind looking at a much younger version of myself. But yeah, it is definitely an old photo. When you log in, you have to use your ZID. And when you use your ZID, the information, other than the photo, on the left-hand side will come up automatically. So that is attached to your ZID. So one of the questions I got online, that was one of the questions someone wanted to know about, was whether you could use this portfolio, and then if you went to another institution, could you still use or access it? You can't access it online, but you can download it and you can export it. So that has that option. It does start with your teaching context and philosophy, and my work is in social, so my research informs my teaching, and I do value student feedback, and so I've got some information around that. You can see I've got a published view, so I've made mine very public. And if you know anything about myself, I do a lot of more public facing things such as LinkedIn, and I don't mind. This information is basically on LinkedIn anyhow. But you can choose the privacy setting, whether you want it published to the absolute public in terms of a link, or you could have it published just for your colleagues in University of New South Wales, or you could have it private. It's up to you. What we need to look at is the 4 domains. So the 4 domains in this portfolio is the design and development. So that's like your curriculum design, innovations, your teaching and support, and that could be your mentoring, supporting student learning, your disciplinary expertise. I'm a registered pharmacist, so I use that as a part of my pharmacy area, and educational leadership. So that's what's allocated in the 4 domains. And what you need to think about is evidence that relates to at least all those domains and multiple evidence for all those 4 domains. You see the little tools bar at the right-hand side? That has a few options for you. So the tools bar, that's where you upload your evidence. That's where you can edit your evidence. You can share your portfolio. You can download it. You can actually export it, and you can have drafts. Okay, so you've got the 4 domains. This is going to showcase your skills. And now you've got to be prepared to provide the evidence for the 4 domains. Bear in mind what stage of your career you're at. So are you a lecturer, senior lecturer, associate professor, professor? Of course, the evidence you're going to provide is going to be aligned to that stage. And you can look at evidence that's derived from your students or peers or colleagues or from your own professional journey. And there's a link there that I've just included that will show the type of evidence according to the stages. Now, clearly, a junior lecturer might have, the evidence that's from more local faculty, perhaps a little bit of, maybe some national work, or national peers, and you're working towards your global peers, certainly by associate professor. Okay, so what is the type of evidence? So from your students, the quant data from myEducation surveys might be something you might want to use. I would refrain, though, from using your qual data. And the reason being, I've had contact with the myEducation team, and even though that is de-identified, they suggest that we haven't spoken to our students about that and the way we use this, and this can often be an open and public source. So I wouldn't use the qual for that. However, if you are on LinkedIn and you have former students or current students who've had some recommendations, that's public facing, you could use that data openly. I will be doing a session on LinkedIn on the 27th of May. It's a bit of a plug in case anyone's interested. Email correspondence. So that's timestamped, and obviously with permission, you might want to use that data as well. And some of that data could be used in your applications for Higher Education Academy and obviously for promotions. Satisfaction scores, you've got a new teaching innovation, you want to test that out, and some of the satisfaction scores might be useful. And if you're in educational research and you've gone through human ethics, you might have some other things that you might be able to include there. That's when you may be able to include some qual data because you've gone through human ethics. Let's look at our peers and colleagues. What sort of data would you gather from them? Email correspondence is a great way to start. I used a few email correspondence for my application to Senior Fellow in Higher Education. I also used a LinkedIn correspondence, and that was timestamped, and I put that into that application as well. And for example, peer review. You've got your colleagues that are peer reviewing your teaching, and there might be some outcome of that. You could use that, and maybe they're peer reviewing your curriculum development. There might be some evidence related to that. We have a few great strategies around the university for peer review of teaching as well. And then there's obviously other recognitions and awards and recognitions by the head of school, your directors of teaching, from the faculty. We have some faculty awards, the Vice Chancellor Awards, of course, and the Australian Awards for university teaching. So if you're looking at the school, faculty, institution level, so you're looking at maybe a lecturer, associate lecturer, lecturer level, you could include things like you're on these sorts of committees or committees of practice, on certain boards or academic boards. And then as you go to the global recognition, you might be a visiting scholar at an international university. You might have Q1 journal articles, your first author, or in my discipline, first author and last author are very important, and then it goes second, third, fourth. But depending on your discipline, it might go first, second, third, fourth. So you might need to explain that, so that context. You would also need to explain that in your promotion application. In terms of global recognition, if you're on editorial boards, I'm an associate editor of 2 editorial boards, but I do reside on 5, 6 overall. In terms of evidence from your kind of professional journey, There might be some professional experience that you have undertaken. I believe one of my colleagues in the room has got professional experience in medicine, and obviously you've got both professional and academic experience. Professional memberships and fellowships. I'm a fellow of the Pharmaceutical Society of Australia, and they only nominate a few each year. They nominated 5 last year for New South Wales, and I was honoured to receive that fellowship. Professional development. So this university does this very well. For the EF group, I actually undertook the CDI course last year. It was absolutely fabulous, and I highly recommend it if you haven't already done so. They actually gave out some great certificates. And there's other professional learning. There's LinkedIn learning, and there's other things that that the business school actually has as well. So just keep an eye out of that through the educational website. Okay, so engagement with teaching and learning conferences and teaching and learning forums on either faculty level, institutional level. We've got EduFest here, of course, nationally and internationally, and also thinking of other conferences that are more higher education, HERTSA, iSocial, those sorts of things would be great in terms of presentations at those conferences. In terms of your scholarship of teaching and learning, scholarship of teaching and learning is very broad. It means a number of things. It means your publications in Q1 journals. It can be conference presentations, so oral presentations or posters, conference type of workshops as well. All of that, and blogs, of course, scholarly blogs. We have an opportunity here to have a great output there for UNSW scholarly blogs. And evidence of reflective practice, so how your SOTL informs your teaching approaches, and that's what you can curate and add to your portfolio. All right, so addressing evidence examples across the 4 domains, and I just want to give you a few examples at different levels. So domain 1, design and development of learning activities and assessment. You may be a course convener or program director, and as a program director, you have higher responsibilities, and therefore you would assume a program director is at least a senior lecturer and above. You may have led some curriculum development. You may have participated or led curriculum review processes, so this is the sort of area that you would add that evidence. You may have received awards for teaching and learning innovations, whether they're faculty or institution-wide, or even externally. And you may have received awards in terms of the research around those teaching innovations, which are from international conferences. So how do I add or edit? Again, go to the tools bar, and as you go down the list, you've got the edit button, you've got your add your artifact, and the artifact can be a document, it can be a video, it can be an audio file, it can be a number of different media files. The next little icon is just your cases that you're developing, then your drafts, and then you can share it, and then you can download and export it. Okay, so domain 1, we want to add some evidence. So I'm going to write in this content about something to do with the design and development of learning activities. I was involved with a curriculum review, and this is what the review was about. It was brought about because of accreditation, and then we needed to add in cultural safety and a few other extra things. So a bit of context around that, and then what sort of evidence that you might want to add. I was lucky to be working with Indigenous academics and led a RAP toolkit, which is a working respectfully with Aboriginal peoples toolkit. I was the only non-Indigenous in the group, so I feel very privileged. And that was one of the sort of outputs from that particular development of that curriculum. So now I'm looking at the criteria and I'm going, okay, I'm designing curriculum and learning activities. Okay, I'm going to tick that box. And I'm also looking at some of the other things. I'm engaging students. We did have students that were also part of our committees. So we did engage students when we did our curriculum review. So I would tick that box. So you could tick 1, 2, 3 or 4 of those boxes, and that is going to tag this across your portfolio. Domain 2, teaching and supporting student learning. I was a mental health first aid instructor accredited through Mental Health First Aid Australia, and decided to embed that in the course to support student learning as an option for them, they could opt in. Actually, they all opted in, but a few. So that was part of the thing that I actually added to Domain 2. I also supervise honours or masters by research students and PhD students. But you think of other supervision support. So in the clinical setting, for example, you would have students that are on rounds with you. You might have some junior staff members that you are supervising. So it's not just, it's the junior staff you're supervising to support the student learning. You might be part of some mentoring programs. All right, so adding that particular domain, I might add some content about a teaching and learning support, say for example, mental health first aid, instruction, and then I would look at the criteria, and there could be, maybe Teach 3 might be creates inclusive, safe and supportive learning environments for that particular one. So domain 3, disciplinary expertise and professional development. I lead SOTL activities, so you might want to add some of that information there. Any SOTL publications related to your disciplinary expertise. Are you undertaking your own professional development? And as a pharmacist, of course, we need to have our own continuous professional development. So that is what I need to do anyhow. But as other disciplines, what sort of professional development are you looking at? Are you looking at something in terms of higher education and furthering your education in that area? As a disciplinary expert in one particular area, you might be a session chair at a national conference or even at a faculty conference or international conference. And have you completed any particular extra studies in this area? So that's where you would add domain 3. And as you can see, that some of that would be also part of your educational leadership when you're looking at your promotion application. Okay, domain 3, disciplinary expertise, same thing. I would then say continuously updates disciplinary knowledge. I definitely do that. Improves teaching practices through reflection and feedback. My whole PhD was on reflective practice. I would have to actually tick that box, and engages in educational scholarship. Educational leadership. So these are the sort of areas where you really need to focus on where you're leading in terms of national, international areas, session chairs, academic committees, academic board. You might be on some other external boards. I'm also on an academic advisory committee for the Pharmaceutical Society of Australia. That is an external board, so professional bodies may have some external boards that require academics, so seek those out. You might be the lead investigator or lead author in a project. And you might be the lead or co-lead in some of these conference presentations. And I've been very lucky to be co-lead with my colleagues, Nexus colleagues at HRSA this year. So we're looking forward to presenting some AI rubric design at the HRSA conference. So you might be leading in terms of an abstract reviewer or you're on a scientific committee, so part of the conference committees. And as you can see, educational leadership covers a lot of different areas, and you can tag whichever area you want. Okay, so the next set of slides is I'm giving you some fictitious people and their levels and the type of evidence. So we've got Meet Blue. She's a lecturer at level B. She lectures in law. She's 3 years at University of New South Wales, and she's a member of an ES community of practice. But she could also be a co-lead in a community of practice with the educational leadership. But she's at least starting to emerge in those areas. She co-convenes a very large course. She's won a School Innovation Teaching Award, and she's got a number of different things that she could add, but she's a level B. Now we've got Kim. She's education focused. And she's a level C, so you would expect a little bit more from her. So she serves as an EF champion within the school. She's an academic lead in digital assessment. So she's showing more leadership in that sense. She's convening more courses. She's got outstanding student anonymous student feedback, and she's led the digital uplift of one of their courses. So this is some of the evidence that she could apply. And again, education focused on a level D, we meet Morgan. Now, Morgan is a program authority, so a lot more responsibilities there. He's a mentor, he's the head of teaching in the school. He's been awarded a senior fellowship in higher education, and he's introduced pedagogy into the program, and he's led that pedagogy and some of the outputs around that. And he's been an associate professor in engineering for the last 12 years. Now, Carson, I'm going to set you on a little bit of a combined, here's the combined track, so it's a little bit different. And we're going to look at level C, D and E for Carson. So as a level C, he's on a combined track, so not an education focus, but he still needs to meet the criteria for the promotion in terms of education and educational leadership. He's been at the university for 7 years, and he convenes a large course. He's the discipline representative on the Faculty Education Committee. He's undertaken at the moment the Graduate Certificate in Higher Education, and he's completely redesigned some courses. He's got an emerging leadership role. He's also mentoring some junior staff, and he's now looking at more national dissemination of his innovations, at least at that level. Should be more national to international, but he's working towards that. Now he's got his promotion, he's level D now, feeling a bit more comfortable. He's been at the university for 11 years. He's got his higher education qualifications, his program level leadership. He's got this emerging national and international recognition, and he's been the recipient of some external awards now. So looking at some of the external teaching awards and maybe some of the external research awards related to teaching in terms of promotion. Now we got the promotion to level E. So he's now been here for 15 years. He's got global recognition. He's got numerous Q1 journal publications. He's probably the senior because he's obviously got the PhD student that's actually writing these papers up. And he's the senior last or senior author, depending on your discipline. He's been an invited speaker at national and international conferences, maybe a plenary here and there. He's got leadership in social and grant applications because he is a combined track, and some of his research and some of the innovations around that research has been adopted by other universities or professional bodies in his case. You might ask, why does a level E need to do a myEducation portfolio or have that? Any thoughts on why from the audience or on chat? Well, this can be a bit more of a public link, and you could have it as part of your email signature, and it does showcase some of those things. If the person does decide to go somewhere else, they can download and export it, but let's hope that they stay here. Or if they go to, come from an academic world into a more professional world, they might want to showcase that and download that and export that. There are many benefits to having a very public link to this. It does show your work in this area. I actually have that next to my ORCID link as well. So the ORCID link is really your research and some of the grants, but this actually shows the reflective practice of your teaching, which is a little bit different. So it's a different type of tool. All right, so we don't want to leave out, there's some other options here in the portfolio. There are the research-focused people out there that might want to have the portfolio, and this is an academic level C. And because they might be thinking they're research-focused now, they may be going into an academic career later on, or they might be going for a research-focused level C to higher research focus. So that this is also a good opportunity for them as well. So this particular person's been at the university for 7 years at a level C in the Faculty of Medicine. And you can see some of the areas here, they're looking and focusing on their research components, but they also support teaching and learning and supervises students in that capacity. So this has an opportunity of looking at those academic levels. The actual portfolio itself, so you can actually, has a drop-down menu. You can be education focused, combined track, or research focused at all the different levels. So you can have a look at what you're aligned to. Now, I came across another colleague, and I haven't met her, but I got permission to use her link. I thought it was fantastic. She made more of a narrative hook. So she was a bit more creative than I was. She opens with a teaching dilemma and she closed with a measurable impact. I just want to introduce Namani. She's in science. Now, I say lecturer here because when I spoke to her a few days ago, she said, oh, I haven't updated my education portfolio, and she's actually the director of teaching now. So, but she did this from nightmare to bliss, how to change the perception of group work. And then I also noticed she's a senior fellow in higher education, so I'm sure she gathered quite a bit of this information. And she had some really great narrative around that and some of the impact of that narrative. And I'm sure that's one of the areas where she focused on in that particular application, and was obviously very successful in that area. Now, I just want to touch on some of the common mistakes with the portfolio. It's like not just having too much, quant data in here, like in my experience, surveys, without the reflection, without some context. You really need some context around that. Maybe it was a course that wasn't doing particularly well. Maybe it was something that you've improved on, or you had an innovation. So maybe add that reflective component if you are using quant data. If you don't align it to the domains, it's not going to align across the portfolio. Some of mine align to different parts of the portfolio. So some of them in education leadership is also going to be in my design curriculum area. If you don't tag anything, it's not going to be aligned. Over reliance on the teaching surveys as the primary source of evidence, and that's for anything in terms of promotions to your normal promotions or your applications to higher education academy. And don't forget the media options, because there's so many of those as options to upload. Now you can work on this portfolio and save it as a draft, and you don't have to make it public at this point in time. You can make it private. You could also share it with a colleague, and you could then peer review each other's before you make it public, and I would suggest you do that. So they're the options. You can make it completely public, which is what I've got, or just for UNSW, or you can make it private as a setting option. Right, call to action. So if you want to start on these sorts of things, obviously get your narrative sorted. What's your narrative? What makes you different to some of the other teachers, the way you approach something, draft that teaching philosophy, collect your pieces of evidence, add it for each of the domain. And obviously you can make it in draft. If you know that you've done something and it's just, I'm going to signpost that in that domain, I'll do that now. I'll make the whole thing in draft until I gather the rest of that information. And then you're obviously going to assign it to one of the 4 specific domains. And then you might want to share it with your colleague, and they can share something back with you, and you can then publish that. So when I started this, I actually was surprised that not many people use this tool. I used it for a lot of things, and I saw the value, and a lot of work has gone into producing this tool, and it is great that we've got this tool at University of New South Wales. I did poke around at my colleagues' portfolios to see the difference, and if you wanted to know some of the others in my faculty, some of them that were either education focused or were combined tracked or at different levels, I gave a few examples. These are the ones that were public. So obviously, I wanted to see what the differences and what they added as evidence as well. And the other thing I want to mention, that if you do go for promotion, or if you're already promoted and you're going to hopefully go for another promotion in 3 years' time, it's best to start with this early. You can do it now once you're promoted, or you can do it as you're just collating that information. Because don't forget your executive summary. You've got the 3 pillars you've got to actually address, but under the executive summary, that's your 1-pager to your head of school. This is a lovely link for your head of school to see what you've done, which you can't fit on that 1-pager. And it might be an opportunity for that head of school to see further work from you. So you might want to include that as a link. I just want to thank you for your time. I do have an email contact. There is another C. Lucas in this university, so it's Cherie Lucas. So just in case you send it out to a C. Lucas, it's someone else. I would value your feedback if you could. And I will be sharing the slides, so no need to kind of scramble to find or screenshot or anything. I should have said that at the beginning, but I will share the slides as well. And I'd be really interested to see what others are doing or using this tool for, because it is very useful in lots of different areas. And to be honest, it's in one place. I know that I can go back to that and it's all in one place. So all the stuff that all the collating of the information, and you forget what you do as academics. So if you could put it as part of your email signature, I put it as part of my LinkedIn. If you even see it, I've got a very public version of it, and I just update it when I can. Clearly have to update the photo as well. Apologies for a very old photo. But thank you very much.
Change that.
I think we've got we do have plenty of time, and I am a very fast talker, so I apologise for that, but we do have plenty of time for questions. If anyone's got some burning questions online, we might start with some online questions. If anyone's got any burning questions. If you do, you can keep it in the chat as another option, or you can email me directly. Oh, Deborah. Oh, sorry, there is someone else here. Oh, Patsy. Patsy, go ahead.
Thanks, Cherie. That was excellent. And it's been a long time coming for these roadshows. And I guess that's why we haven't had too much uptake and impact in terms of usage. And colleagues, I agree with Cherie. You must spend some time thinking about your journey, but also quarantine some writing time, because it does take a lot of effort. But once it's done, you're ready for all of your other documents in terms of awards and promotions. So it's a good thing to do.
Thank you, Patsy. Deborah?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for the excellent presentation, Cherie. That was fantastic. I just wonder if I could ask, and I know Gary's in the background and had a lot to do with building this, I think, the myEducation portfolio. And I just wondered, how is it different from ROS? And I mean, obviously there's the education versus straight research, but I just wonder, I keep track of everything in my ROS. So because our faculty has AROC, so they always are looking to award research. So I wonder if there could be an argument in doing this to reward education.
Gary, did you want to answer that?
Thanks, Cherie. Great presentation, and thanks for the question, Deborah. So, so ROS is specifically to record publications and grants, and that's useful in a variety of contexts for grant applications or for academic promotion. But myEducation portfolio is specifically for showcasing educational achievements. So if we had an ideal system, we would have my academic portfolio, which would include information from ROS, the myEducation portfolio, our engagement and leadership contributions, all in one place. Unfortunately, UNSW systems don't talk to each other, as is the case at most universities. So the myEducation portfolio can be utilised and extracted using the My Cases tool within it to for promotion applications, specifically for the education case, for Fellowship of Higher Education Academy applications, or for teaching awards, which we do in medicine and health. I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, it's really great. I guess it's just, I would love to see it taken up more or have more people using it. So it's good for me to be able to tell them why. Thank you.
Got a question?
Can I just add to Gary's commentary, please? The idea of the myEducation portfolio is the fact that it's a reflective space and it does give you an opportunity to talk about your best practice. And I think this is the defining moment for this type of portfolio, that it is a curation of reflection on your best practice. And this is the key difference with everything else that's out there. And that is the selling point to the higher ups, because when we write these applications, guess what? They're narratives of our best practice and where we've taken the work in our typical teaching day or life.
I agree. I totally agree with that, Patsy. Sections of this in your higher education academy application, you need to have a reflective practice component, and it's a significant reflective practice component. And this is something useful to start in that space. Do we have any questions in the room by any chance before I go back online? Yep, just 1 second. I'm going to grab the mic. Just introduce yourself as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Cherie. A really fascinating presentation and really great to get an intro to demystify what it is and how to go about doing it so that you don't have to feel worried like, how would I even get started? So I think that breaking down that initial barrier is hugely valuable. This is a bit of a, I don't know, it's a bit of a question that doesn't have an answer. And I'm conscious that we are finally moving back to semesters, but not for another 3 years. My question is, when would I ever have time to do this? Like, how did you have time to do it? Do we just have to accept that this is something you do at night and on the weekend? Yeah, thanks.
With all of these things, I only spent 10, 15 minutes a day.
Okay.
And in a way, I also was taught that even when I was adding to LinkedIn, spend 10, 15 minutes a day. So if you can just allocate that and you just work on one domain, just chip away at it. And then by the time your promotion application or any other application comes, you should have all the information there. And then you're just going to fine tweak it, that sort of thing. But yeah, I wouldn't be doing it all in one go. I didn't do it all in one go. Any other questions? Yeah, thank you.
I'm Andrea. I'm an educational staff developer at the business school. And I know I can see a few professional staff colleagues online also. And we were wondering if this is also a good platform for professional staff to keep, data and information and also to have discussions.
So that question did come up online, and I actually think it is a tool you can use, because you can just allocate at least the level, so A, B, C, D, where you think you might be in the professional level, and it's the same sort of thing. So if you might be classed as an education focus, just maybe an education focus at that various level. It's still a curated, and you can still go across the 4 domains and add your evidence there, and it's still a placeholder for you. I can't see anything, anything negative around that. Gary, you might want to add if there's any options of actually perhaps having a drop-down menu for professional staff. I'm not sure, Gary.
Yes, so we would need to modify the site to include that. But absolutely, I completely agree that professional staff engaged in education should utilise whatever tools are available to document their achievements. I'm aware that professional staff careers are usually advanced by changing jobs rather than by promotion. So having something to refer to in applications for higher level positions, I think is very helpful.
Gary, is there anyone else online that's got some pressing questions at all? Okay. Oh, one more from the audience. Hold on.
I'm not a full-timer, I'm a casual. Are there any sort of specific tips for casual? I know this is not required for people in my situation, but have you got any observations or tips?
Being a casual, you still have a ZID, so you can actually access this as a tool. I would be accessing it. If you're casual and you can, display, all the things you've been doing, and it's in one sort of...
I'll be casual for
Oh, you're long-term casual. Okay.
Long-term casual.
I mean, look, you've got a ZID. I would definitely use it. Any comments online, Gary or Patsy? Anyone?
I can't see why you wouldn't do it, honestly.
Yes, so
Very.
I think it's useful for casual academic staff in that showing achievements can help not only with your current role but also in applying for future roles. And you could also download your portfolio if you want to apply for roles at other institutions or other places as well. So there's benefits in an ongoing way. I just also want to comment on a comment in the chat by Sharon, which is to peer review each other's education portfolios. So we had a recent upgrade to the platform where you can now endorse other people's evidence. So I would strongly encourage you, if you're interested in a particular type of activity, maybe it's educational leadership, you can search other people's educational leadership evidence, give them endorsements, other people can endorse yours, and that just lends weight to the to your educational impact.
Karen, did you want to add anything to that?
No, I was just going to suggest at our next meeting, Cherie, maybe we can
Sounds good.
maybe we can do a kind of a mock-up of how we could make that happen, and then we can, you know, mentor other people. So that's what I need done. So got a personal agenda here.
Thanks, Sharon.
Gary. I'll look at that new thing because I don't know about it. Thanks.
Thank you. Patsy, you've got a question?
Yeah, it's more of a comment. I might just say that Gary and I have presented this at national and international fora, and it's been very well received. So the take-home message for me from that is that we have a unique opportunity to build ourselves up in terms of our profiles that is very different from a ROS metric-based approach to profiling someone. This is a very rich, evidence-based, literature-based approach to how we see ourselves as educational leaders. So it takes time, and as Cherie said, chip away at it, because the more you chip away, the more reflective you are, actually.
Thank you very much. I think that's the end of this session. I will share the slides, and if anyone has any further questions, I've got my contact there. Thanks very much for your time. Thank you. Thanks.